Today on Face the Nation, an exclusive interview with the incoming Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid. With the Democrats now in control of both the House and the Senate, what can we expect from the new Congress? Can the President and the Democratic majority come together to chart a way on Iraq? Are we in for real cooperation or just more partisan sniping? We'll talk to the people who know, Senator Reid and the President's Chief of Staff, Josh Bolten. Then I'll have a final word on evolution, the political evolution of George Bush.
The election's over. It's time for a change.
But first, Senator Harry Reid on Face the Nation.
Face the Nation with CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Bob Schieffer. And now from CBS News in Washington, Bob Schieffer.
And good morning again. Well, joining us here in the studio, the Democratic leader of the Senate, Senator Harry Reid. Senator Reid, thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
President made no bones about it. He said that he took a thumping, as he called it in this election, but you met with him and the Vice President last week. Let me just ask you to start, how did he seem to you?
Well, George Bush is a very pleasant man, and he seemed just as pleasant as he always is on your one-on-one meetings. He just is a,
Appreciate you all.
Jokester and backslapper kind of. I enjoyed the hour we spent with him.
Well, did you get the sense he's ready to kind of cooperate with Democrats to try to get something done, or do you think there's still going to be a great division?
Bob, I sure hope so. As I reminded the President, he said the same thing to me 2 years ago when I got the job as Democratic leader, and I told him this time as President we have to really do something, and I really believe that. I think the time has come with the new elections having been completed and an old President that we show the American people that we can govern.
Well, you returned to the Capitol and said the first order of business was return to oversight. And in other words, to many people, that sounded like you were saying we need to have a bunch of investigations here. We need to find out how we got from there to here. What did you mean by that?
First of all, bipartisanship. Secondly, I think it's very important we have openness, and second, results. Part of the results is going to be have Congress go back to what it's always done. For more than 200 years in this great republic, Congress has had congressional oversight. What does that mean? It means finding out what government is doing. There has been, for the last 6 years, a Republican-dominated Congress has not exercised its prerogative constitutionally and had hearings on Iraq, had hearings on the Medicare program that isn't working as well as it should, education, what's going on with health care in this country generally. Why are we having these staggering deficits? Oversight is not investigations. There will be times, rare occasions, when these committees will have to offer subpoenas, but that will happen very infrequently. We will just be doing our job. That's why I'm saying return to the way it used to be that worked so well.
But aren't you going to have to look forward rather than backward? Shouldn't that be where the priority is in trying to figure out where we go from here in Iraq, to figure out where we get to what we come to some understanding on immigration, rather than going back and trying to figure out what we did wrong?
Sure, Bob. Most of our work should be toward the future, but there is stuff to find out what's happened in the past is going to allow us to look into the future. Most of the work has to be done in a visionary manner so we can find out where this country needs to go, not where it's been.
The President throughout this campaign said all Democrats want to do is raise taxes. Tell us what you plan to do. Are you going to raise taxes? Is it inevitable that taxes be raised?
The answer is no. But it is inevitable, as far as I'm concerned, that this country stop spending red ink. Bob, during the 5 years that President Bush has had government's been completed, every year, all 5 years, the largest deficits in the history of the country. This year, which is about completed, will be the 6th. He holds a record for all 6. We can't do that. We can't be borrowing money from China, Saudi Arabia, and Japan to have this government work. We've got to bring down the deficit. And the Democrats have something to go back and say, well, what happened during the Clinton years? The last 3 years of the Clinton administration, we were spending less money than we were taking in. We retired the debt by about $500 billion. We need to return to those years.
Well, President Clinton's Secretary of the Treasury, Bob Rubin, said just the week before the election that we have to get more revenue if we're going to get out of this hole we're in. Many people took that to mean that taxes are going to have to be raised.
I love Bob Rubin. one of my friends, but he's not part of this government. And we are going to have to work with the president. Of course, we need to do things middle class. I think they've been hit real hard. For example, Kay Bailey Hutchison and I have been trying for a long time to make sure that we return to where we used to be and have people who pay sales tax in states have that deductible. I think it's important that we look at what the benefits have been given to the oil companies. They make billions and billions of dollars. Why should they be given billions of dollars in American subsidies? They shouldn't. So I think that what we have to do is do as the new chairman of the Budget Committee has been so good at talking about and articulating, Kent Conrad, to have a pay-as-you-go budget system. What does that mean? If you want to have a new program, figure out a way to pay for it without raising taxes.
A lot of people had said that the key here is to find some way to give some sort of relief to those in the middle, and the way you do that is by putting more taxes on the very rich. Do you rule that out as well?
I think the American people are going to see that we are not going to be running around saying which tax can be raised. You know, the world's been kind of turned on its head. I think the idea of liberals and conservatives is kind of out the window. Conservatism has been what this country has had, but yet the staggering deficits, that isn't the way I understood conservatism, that you would see how much money you could spend by borrowing. I think that what we're going to try to do, and we need the cooperation of the president, is to try to have programs that are paid for. We need to recognize that the tax system, we may need to take a look at the tax system, but we're not going to do this in the first 6 months of the first year, maybe not even during this Congress. But we are going to stop the bleeding of red ink.
Well, let's talk about what's coming up next week, because before all these newly elected people take office in January, you've got a lame duck session that starts next week. What's on the table and off the table there? For example, the president seems to want to resubmit the nomination of John Bolton to be the ambassador to the United Nations. Will the Democrats go along with that?
Joe Biden, the new chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, said, forget about John Bolton. And as we know, even before we took over, and the lame duck, we don't take over, the Republicans didn't have enough votes to get the guy out of committee. So I think we should go to things we can work together on. And I think what we should do, Bob, one of the first things we should do in this lame duck session is finish what we started. I think the American public needs to know that we're not here as we've always been. And we passed under, I would hope, the direction of the Democrats, but certainly the Republicans in the Senate voted for it. And I had Barack Obama, who was the person I appointed to lead us on this, the most significant lobbying and ethics reform in 25 years. It even had a provision in it pushed by Dianne Feinstein for transparency and earmarking. That passed the Senate by a large margin. It was lost, as so many things have been lost these past 6 years, in the Republican House of Representatives. No conference. I would like to see that get done.
Okay.
These are some of the
Well, let me
things
ask you about domestic eavesdropping. That could come up for a vote. Are you going to put that off to next year, or would you take that up now?
Well, we'll be happy to take a look at it, but, you know, the program is going on. Bob, first of all, understand Democrats. I believe that we have to do everything within our power, including wiretapping, to get these bad people, these evil people, these terrorists. But in the process of doing this, we can't have the American people think that every telephone call they have, that the government's listening in. Well, we must do it within the confines of the Constitution. And at this stage, that has not been resolved yet. I repeat, the president's program as we speak is ongoing.
Okay, let's talk about the big issue that'll be the issue in the lame duck and next year, and that is Iraq. Democrats were very critical of the president's approach on Iraq. He has replaced his Secretary of Defense. What do you recommend be done now, and what could you cooperate with the president on?
First of all, let's follow the law. The law of the land, passed by a bipartisan group of senators and like number of members of the House, said that the year 2006 will be a year of significant transition. That is the law as we speak. In addition to that, I think we need to look at the amendment that the Democrats offered called the Jack Reed from Rhode Island 11 Amendment, which said that we need to do a number of things. What do we need to do? We need to have a redeployment in Iraq. What does that mean? Pull everybody out now? Of course not. But it does mean that we need to change our operation there to counterinsurgency, better training, and force protection. Number two, we need to revitalize the reconstruction. Right now, There's less oil being produced than before the war, significantly less water, potable water for people to drink, less electricity than before the war. Revitalize reconstruction. And also what we need to do is have a regional conference led by the President of the United States and participated Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, Syria. It's a regional problem. It's not all our problem. Finally this. We need to revitalize our military. They are in a state of distress. We do not have a single unit now in the United Army unit that's here, that's undeployed, that's battle ready. And we've got to do what the Pentagon has told us to do, and that is spend $75 billion to make them as good as they were before the war started.
Will you insist on a timetable for the beginning of the drawing down of the forces there?
We need to redeploy. Who's going to make that decision is redeployment? The officers on the ground, and I think it should start within the next few months.
But you're not going to insist on a specific date to begin drawing down?
Right. Absolutely not.
All right. Senator, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We'll talk to you down the road. We'll come back in a minute with the White House Chief of Staff, Josh Bolten.
This portion of Face the Nation is sponsored by the new AT&T, your world delivered, and by TD Ameritrade, the independent spirit.
The German word for safe is sicher. The Portuguese word for firewall is muro de fogo. The Chinese word for password is Mima. My company's in 17 countries now, and I can stay secure in every one of them.
Dynamic networking from AT&T identifies security threats before they're problems, so Jane's confidence grows right alongside her company. The new AT&T, your world delivered.
For the independent investor, TD Ameritrade has proprietary tools like trade triggers. It lets you place trades automatically even when you're away from the computer. And Market Motion Detector, a tool that shows the speed of price and volume movements. Tools for the long-term investor. Tools for the active trader. Tools for independence. TD Ameritrade. Independence is the spirit that drives America's most successful investors.
Introducing the new HP Blade System C-Class with Thermalogic, Virtual Connect, and Insight Control, powered by dual-core Intel Xeon processors. Now you can contain the chaos and set IT free to drive your business.
And with us now, the White House Chief of Staff, Josh Bolten. Thank you very much for coming, Mr. Bolten. Well, you heard Senator Reid. What's your reaction?
I'm encouraged by the tone, the bipartisan tone that's been coming from both Senator Reid and Congresswoman Pelosi. The president met with both of them this past week, spent over an hour, I think, with each of them. And the tone coming out of those meetings was very good. You know, it's a big disappointment for us in the White House to have lost control of both houses of Congress. But sometimes in adversity, there's opportunity, and hopefully we can take advantage of this opportunity and the bipartisan spirit that seems to prevail, at least for the moment, and get some good things done.
Well, many in Senator Reid's party would like to see an immediate pullback of troops in Iraq. He did not seem to take that line, it seemed to me, this morning.
No, and I'm encouraged by that. The president obviously wants to take a whole fresh look at what we're doing in Iraq. Nobody's happy with what our situation in Iraq is now. The president said, Secretary Rumsfeld has said, that what we've been doing isn't working well enough and it isn't working fast enough. We need to take a fresh look. But what we cannot do is pull out of there prematurely and leave a failed state behind. It's absolutely critical to our national security that we succeed.
Could you ever envision signing on to a plan that had a specific date to start drawing down troops?
I don't think so, and I think it'd be a very bad idea. Nobody wants to get the troops out of there more than President Bush, but they need to be there to support the Iraqi government, to make sure that the Iraqi government succeeds. And as soon as we can get them out, we will. But if you set an artificial timeline on it, if you put a date certain on it, the enemy will just wait us out, and we may end up leaving behind a failed state in a much worse situation, which would be a dangerous haven for terrorists, not just to us, but to the whole neighborhood.
Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld is out. The president has picked Bob Gates, the former CIA director, in his father's cabinet to succeed him. What can he do that Don Rumsfeld couldn't?
He brings fresh eyes on a very difficult problem. He's a great manager. He had a great reputation as the director of Central Intelligence and has a long career in the Central Intelligence Agency. He's been an extraordinarily effective and popular manager of Texas A&M University, which is no small feat. I think he'll be somebody that comes in with a lot of experience and understanding of these kind of problems, but bring some fresh eyes, bring open ears to the advice coming from our military commanders, from foreign policy experts, and the folks on the Baker-Hamilton Commission, of which he has been a member up until the announcement of his nomination.
Is it your feeling that he'll bring a whole new team of civilians into the Pentagon?
I don't know. My guess is he'll want some continuity, but he'll want some of his own people as well. That's going to be up for him to make a recommendation to the president on. But I expect the important thing is that he sit down promptly with our military leaders and help chart the best way forward in Iraq and elsewhere around the world. Were there problems between Mr. Rumsfeld and the uniformed leaders? We keep hearing that. I heard it, I read it, I never saw it. The uniformed leaders, even in the private conversations that I had with them, had great respect and support for Secretary Rumsfeld. And that's not what occasioned the change here. The change was occasioned by conversations that the President had been having with Secretary Rumsfeld over several weeks about the need, given especially our situation in Iraq, to bring some fresh perspective, bring some fresh eyes and energy to the problem. And the President and Secretary Rumsfeld finally agreed on that this past week, and fortunately, a man the caliber of Bob Gates is willing to serve his country again.
It's been reported that you wanted to change at the Pentagon some time ago. Various books are reporting that. Now some Republicans, Newt Gingrich among them, are saying that had you made this change before the election, the Republicans might have kept the Senate and the House. What do you say to that?
You know, far be it from me to second-guess the political judgment of Speaker Gingrich, who's a brilliant expert on these things. But my guess is you could argue it either way, that it would have been politically helpful to do it earlier, or I think you could argue it would have been politically harmful. The important point is it doesn't matter. The President was not going to make this decision based on partisan political interest. He was going to make the decision based on what's best for the national security of this country, and he was determined not to inject an important national security decision into the electoral process just a few days before the election, because that would have sent a terrible signal to our troops, to our allies, and our enemies.
You know, Newsweek has a new poll out today. It's not very complimentary, I must say, to the president. It says 2 out of 3 people now believe the president is a lame duck, and his approval rating has now sunk to an all-time low, 31%. How do you change that, Mr. Bolton? Because if you don't, it's going to be very difficult for the president to get anything done, it seems to me.
Well, I think we've got a moment of opportunity here. It certainly doesn't feel like lame duckism around the White House. On Wednesday, I went around to several of the offices in the White House because I figured I would need to buck people up, and I didn't need to. Everybody was disappointed, but nobody was discouraged, and in particular the president, who, as you know, is a very affirmative, optimistic, and energetic person. We've got 800 days left. As of today, we've got 800 days left in this administration, which is a long time. It's almost the entire length of the Ford administration. And there's a lot that can be done there with some energy, with some bipartisan cooperation. So we actually take this as a disappointing moment to have gotten thumped in the election, but a moment of opportunity to bring people together and actually accomplish some good things for the country.
Let's talk about this lame duck session that begins tomorrow. Will the president insist on trying to get John Bolton, the UN ambassador, who was never confirmed but just served out a recess appointment, will he insist that he remain at the UN?
We're going to nominate him again and ask the Senate to give him a full and formal confirmation. Bob.
Well, you heard what Senator Reid said. He said it won't happen.
I did hear, and I hope that that if he won't reconsider, other members will. Some members already have. John Bolton has been a very effective ambassador. He's been, in many respects, the opposite of what his critics expected him to be. He's been a good consensus builder. He got a North Korea resolution through the UN Security Council. He got a very good Lebanon resolution. He's actually been a very good representative of the United States. He deserves to stay. We want to take him through the nomination process. If he was allowed to get to the Senate floor, we're confident that he would win that vote. We're going to ask the Senate to take him up and approve his nomination formally.
Well, are you going to go through this? A lot of reports that you may try to give him another name, like the deputy ambassador or special rep or something or other, just so he can go and be ambassador without being confirmed. Will you try that?
We're focused on trying to get him done in the proper course of things, and that is get him to a vote on the floor of the Senate where we think he not only will prevail, he should prevail.
Ken Mehlman, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, says he intends to step down. Do you expect that Karl Rove, the president's counselor and his #1 political guru in the White House, will stay on the job?
I hope so. I expect he will, and I think it would be terrific if he would. He's not just a political guru. He's one of the best minds in modern American government today. He's brilliant on policy. He's brilliant on strategy, as well as being brilliant on politics. I think he has a lot to add for this president, for the political process, and I expect to be working with him for some time.
In light of that, where did the Republicans go off the track this time, Mr. Bolton? Because it seems to me that everything they tried just didn't work. What do they need to do to get themselves in position in 2008?
I think this election had a lot of different factors going into it. First of all, there were a lot of good victories for Republicans, a lot of close races. 3,000 votes different in Montana, and Republicans would still be controlling the Senate today, or 7,000 votes in Virginia. So there were a lot of individual close races. In the aggregate, the president's term, I think, was a good one. It was a thumping, and the Republican Party needs to recognize that and go back, I believe, to some first principles. Which are a robust national security, limited government, fiscal responsibility, and moving forward on some of the priorities of the country, like immigration reform, energy independence. Those are the kinds of things where we actually may today have a better prospect of making progress than we did before, because Democrats are now in a difficult position. They have for several years been the party of opposition and rejection.
All right.
That's changed. They have some responsibility in governing now, and here's an opportunity for them to step up, show some responsibility. I'm very encouraged by what I heard from Senator Reid and from Congresswoman Pelosi.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bolton. To be continued.
Thank you.
We'll be back with a final word in a second.
Was always to catch the perfect wave. And then I realized I caught 3.
The all-new Lincoln MKX with all-wheel drive. The perfect car for endless summers. Life's calling. Where to next?
Successful investing. At T. Rowe Price, it's about more than just hitting home runs. It's about a consistent, steady approach, year after year. For each 1, 5, and 10-year period, over 70% of our mutual funds beat their Lipper average. Low-cost mutual funds from T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence. Request a complete prospectus or profile with investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information to read and consider carefully before investing.
If in my choosing I still had a choice, if I could speak for those who are without a voice, oh, may I be one who sees what's in front of me.
You have a voice through your doctor, and your doctor has a voice through the AMA, the American Medical Association, helping doctors help patients.
You okay? I'm working like a dog. I run down to the print department, scan color documents, make color prints, run back, get approvals, run up to 5 and have to fax stuff all over the place. But I think I'm getting noticed. Is it rough by you too? Not that rough. What do you mean? There's a color multifunction machine on my floor. I scan, copy, print, and fax and color from there. There's nothing to it. Don't do this to me.
Xerox Color. It makes business sense.
Come on. Finally today, a funny thing happened to George Bush on his way to the presidency. He became a base-based politician. When he first ran for governor, no one would have mistaken him for a liberal Democrat, but he believed the key to winning was to get the moderate and the independent vote. It worked. And once elected, he became one of the most bipartisan governors in Texas history and one of the most popular. In 2000, he began his run for the presidency the same way, convinced that people cared more about common sense and results than party ideology. Then he was blindsided in the New Hampshire primary by John McCain. His advisors frankly panicked. Moderation may have worked in Texas, but the only way to win now, they said, was to move right and appeal to the party's so-called base. And so he went to the extremely conservative Bob Jones University, where his father had once been denounced as an agent of the devil, and reminded people that he and he alone was the candidate of the right. From that day on, he campaigned from the right, won, governed from the right, and was reelected. But playing to just one set of voters can take even a president only so far. The base-based strategy could not overcome an unpopular war, scandal, and government ineptitude. Where does he go from here if he hopes to accomplish anything over the next 2 years? I believe he must return to his roots, not the buttering up of the so-called Republican base, but his deeper roots, the belief that you can accomplish more by bringing people together than by driving wedges between them. It wouldn't hurt if the Democrats gave that some thought as well. We'll see you next week, right here on Face the Nation.
Meet Beth Griffin, investor.
A great restaurant doesn't just happen. You have to pay attention to every detail. So when it comes to managing my investments, anything that makes my life easier and saves me time is definitely welcome.
TD Ameritrade offers tools and services to help you stay on top of your investments. And innovative investment services like Amerivest can help you easily create a diversified portfolio. Independence. It's the spirit that drives America's most successful investors.
Why do I like working here? I'm part of something big. I'm part of the future. I bring people together and send smiles, literally. Michael's my son. We have a good time together. Michael thinks my job is pretty cool. But what I like the most is that Verizon Wireless works as hard for me as I do for our customers. Through our tuition reimbursement program, I earn my certification. As I grow, the company grows. I am Diane Mundy, Verizon Wireless Project Engineer. It's very exciting to be part of something like this.
The world's demand for energy will never stop, which is why a farmer is growing corn, and a farmer is growing soy, and why ADM is turning these crops into biofuels. The world's demand for energy will never stop, which is why ADM will never stop. We're only getting started. ADM, resourceful by nature.
A portion of Face the Nation was sponsored by ADM. ADM, resourceful by nature.
CBS News. See it now, anytime, anywhere.
This week, it's CSI Week. Go behind the scenes of CSI Miami, CSI New York, and CSI Crime Scene Investigation on The Early Show.
2.5 Men, CBS Mondays.
There's a powerful spirit moving through Oregon. A spirit with the strength to change lives and the promise to unite us. It is the spirit of community. Nourish it, and we are all empowered. Spirit Mountain Community Fund, a $35 million tradition of giving.
Some people deserve special treatment, especially now.
In honor of America's heroes, Furniture Row Outlet is having a Veterans Day Extra Savings event. All veterans, active military, police, fire, and rescue workers and their families can, for a few more days, receive an extra 7% off our already guaranteed lowest prices. Plus, all those who qualify can get no payments and no interest until 2008. Hurry in with any proof of service. Furniture Row's Veterans Day Extra Savings event ends Thursday, November 16th.